Okay, so I'm going to save file, save scene as. I haven't saved it yet, so make sure it's going into the correct folder. And then name it correctly. You want to call it like midterm or crocodile, and then put your name on it so that I know whose it is and what it is. Looks like we are dealing with a bit of interpenetration. There's too much interpenetration. A little bit's fine. We added a little bit too much there. So let's go on and make that tire the wheel. Okay, so this is going to be pretty simple. Let me pull up my other reference. Okay, it's a cylinder. Obviously, right? You know, a cylinder for a wheel. Who would have thought? And then we will rotate it over. Hold down the J key. Holding down J, I can rotate it over in 15-degree increments. And we will get it sized over here. I'm going to press the minus key to make my move tool smaller. And then I'm going to change the radius. So the radius, there you go. 1.3 looks pretty good. And I don't need to have the number of divisions. We'll make 12. And then I don't need to have the height either. Let's see what the height is. Those are some pretty thick wheels. Let's go with 1. That's better. That is still too thick though. Let's go with a 0.8. I think that's going to work. 0.8. Sounds good. Divisions on the caps. So cap divisions, we're going to go 3. We'll have 3 divisions on the caps. And then we will do divisions on the height. We'll do 3 as well. Let's go to edge. Double click this edge. Hold shift, double click this edge, and press R. Scale those out to help control this right here. Go to face. I'm going to hold down the tab key and I'm going to click and drag to select all those. Holding down shift, I can click here and then double click here, and now I can pull these out because this outer part of this wheel, it rounds out. So let's go back to here. Holding tab, I can click and drag over those again. So tab, and then we can press W. Caps lock is on. Turn that off and pull that out. This might not be rounded enough. Let's go to edge, double click this edge, and then pull it out, and then go to object mode and press 3. And it's rounded. Looks pretty good. I think that's a decent amount of roundness. I want to go to vertex. I want to pull this one out slightly. Object mode, and then that's there. Okay. And I'm going to insert an edge loop here because this is a really sharp angle right there. That transition there. Yeah, that's like that. Looks right. And then over here, I'm going to go to face. Let's go inside. Let's grab these faces. You're going to face. Those faces. And we'll kind of drag that out there. And then I'm going to insert an edge loop here because I think this is sharper than what we have here. I think it's also narrower. Let's grab this. Scale it narrower. And we can just set it right there on that. Yeah, it's narrower definitely because it sits there. And we'll insert an edge loop over here. It does something like that. And then we'll insert another edge loop, one more. Here to hold this shape. Cool. And we have the wheel base at this point. This is the base of the wheel. It has a rubber ring around it. Right there. So it gets traction, I assume. Doesn't slide as much. Probably rolls better that way. So how am I going to deal with that? Well, I'm going to make a separate piece for that. That is a separate piece on the object, so therefore it would be a separate piece in your model typically. That's kind of a general rule we go by. Not hard and fast, though. By no means hard and fast. Remember that. It's something we use when we need to. Don't use when we don't need to. It'll just make it easier overall to deal with this. So I'm going to, say, make a torus. It's the donut shape. We'll roll this over. Holding down J, I can easily roll it over to 90 degrees. Otherwise, type in 90. And I'm going to move this over into position here. And I'm going to turn on my wireframe on shaded, which is this icon right here on my window shelf. It is a blue box with white outlines. So then I'm going to hold down the V key, V as in Victor. And I'm going to snap this over the center of the cylinder that I used for my wheel. All right, now we need to make some adjustments here. I'm going to change my radius. No, I'm going to change my section radius to 0.2. No, not 2. 0.2. And then I'm going to change my radius, middle click and drag to pull this out. We don't need divisions on the height. We will change those to, say, 10. Don't need very many at all. Section radius of 0.17. That's better. Radius of 1.25. Okay. 0.15 on that. It's getting better. It's pretty good. I think that's going to work. Let's see. 3. Okay. So now there's faces we don't need on here. So we'll go into inside of this. Go to face. Check out. Let's see. This right here. Double click that all the way around. As you can see, you can't see that from the outside. So I'm going to go in here and then delete those. And that will make this look a little bit more realistic. I think overall, yeah. And it's more centered on this. Let's go to the top view. And we'll move this way. All right, cool. So we have our little wheel. I'm going to select both of these. I'm going to go to Edit, Delete by Type History. It's on my shelf right here. I'm going to also freeze transformations and center the pivot on both of them, which is underneath Modify. And then I'm going to press Control G, and now I've made a group out of this object. And then I'm going to go to Center Pivot. So Modify Center Pivot. And then I can move this. So holding down Shift, I can just move it, and it'll make another one for me. Line that up over here on the center of this front wooden piece. Cool. Now with both of these, to get both of them, I'm going to hold Shift and click on this one and then press the up arrow. And now I have both of the groups selected. Okay. And then I'm going to press Control G again. And then I'm going to press Control D to duplicate. And I'm going to scale -1 on Z -1. And there we go. I don't need these groups, so we can go to the outliner, Windows, Outliner. Here we are. These are the groups. I don't need them. They're just going to take up unnecessary space. At least I don't need the groups regarding the front and back wheel. I need to like have the groups for the wheel, but not the front and back. So like if I have this group, that's fine. I can have that group, but I don't need this group inside of this other group. So I'm going to click and middle click and drag that out. Just bring it down to the bottom. If it will let me, we'll go up. We'll go up here. There. It's out. And then this one here can also go out. Out. You can name these groups. Now I can delete this. And it's gone. So drag this one out. Boom. And then drag this one out here. Boom. And then delete that group. And now we have our wheel groups, but they're individual wheel groups. So they're not the wheel groups grouped together. Not a big deal if you don't do that. I wouldn't worry too much about it. All right, cool. So we have our wheels here, and we have our everything's done except for the rope, basically. So to make the rope, there's really only one way to do it. We could do it with a cylinder, but I'm going to do it a different way. And to do that, I don't need this anymore. I'm going to get rid of it. Delete it. I don't need it. And then what we're going to do is we'll take a, go to Create, go down to Curve Tools, CV Curve Tool. And enter. I'm going to delete this. Enter. I'm going to delete this because it's not good. Let's go back to CV Curve, double click it, and then reset it. Reset tool. if it's in my case. You probably won't have to do that. I'm gonna click it, enter, and you'll end up probably adjusting the string. My string is really short, as you can see. It's pretty short. For a little kid to drag this around, it's gonna have to be longer, right? It's not long enough. Okay, so go to object mode. We're gonna make a cylinder, cylindrical shape here. I'm gonna move it over here, and we will change its radius to a 0.1, and we'll change its height. We don't need that much. We can leave the height alone, actually. We'll just leave it alone. Change radius to a 0.05. We want it to be pretty narrow, because that rope is pretty narrow. Let's do a 0.07. And then I'll change the, I don't need to have this many divisions. I'll just go 12. It'll be a little bit easier to deal with. And then I'm going to delete these here, and I'm going to delete this down here. Okay, go to object mode. Select this thing. Center pivot, modify. Center pivot, it's modify menu, center pivot. It's on my shelf, so I just went to my shelf. Move this over, and then rotate it. Move it out. You have to start at the beginning. The beginning of the curve. If you do this from the other end of the curve, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. Move this beginning vertex out here. Kind of get it lined up. It'll be a little bit easier that way, but it's not a big deal. Object mode. Make sure this is selected in object mode. Then go to face mode. Geez, okay, we gotta get this centered a little bit better. No, I'm not gonna move it over that way. We'll move this instead. Let me turn on my wireframe on shaded. The reason I'm moving this instead because this cylinder's already centered, I'm sure. And then go to face. All right, now with those two things selected, you have to click on your extrude tool, which is on your standard shelf. It should be on your custom shelf. It's also underneath the edit mesh menu if you can't find it anywhere else. It's right here. I'm gonna click on this, and this takes the cylinder that I made and it runs it to the end of the curve. And you're thinking, well, that looks great, except it doesn't follow the curve, right? It's because there's not enough divisions on this. So if I click over here on the word divisions and I drag, and again, if you don't get this little pop-up window, it should be in your history. Just go into your history, and then you can add divisions in your history, which is right here, divisions 25. I'm going to add in a few more. Let's go with 38. I can adjust this here. Yeah. Okay, go to object mode, like that. I'm going to delete its history, edit, delete by type history, because otherwise it's still connected to the curve, and I don't want that. I'm going to select all these things here, press B, B as in boy, and then I can start to drag this down and get it to sit on the same level as the wheel. It's pretty close, and then that's probably okay. I'm just going to leave that, I think. Let's go to object mode here. Turn off my wireframe unshaded. Get rid of this. I don't need it. This over here, I mean, this looks terrible, right? We'll add in some divisions in here. Okay, it's moving a lot of stuff. It's still thinking that I have all that stuff selected, which I don't. I don't know why. There it goes. Press 3 to smooth it out. Make sure it's embedded into the dog's or the alligator's nose. I'm going to delete these faces. We don't need them. They're not going to be visible, so don't put them in there. And then this looks like it's higher up according to what I'm seeing here. And then you have your little gator toy. And then you can put these textures on in Substance Painter. You paint them up. We're going to stop recording. The next recording you don't need to do for the midterm, but you'll probably want to do this for the overall for the final. It's going to be, we're going to UV it. Okay, so let me UV this in the next video.